Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be looking at a Trinity DPS build and how I use her in Steel Path or in endurance runs. Yacht Hussar will be our main weapon for dealing damage and we will make it so it can deal tier 5 and tier 6 crits. And as always, we will use a utility weapon to inflict status, which will be the Kuva New Core. Now before we start, please keep in mind that everything I'm about to show is from my own personal experience and what works best for me. With that being said, feel free to get ideas from the build and create one for yourself. So, Trinity, a name we barely hear when we talk about damage. A warframe that hides behind the shadow of buffer warframes. A warframe commonly known as a support-only warframe. But is that really true? Well, let's see for ourselves. The footage you're watching is from a Steel Path Kuva survival, and as you can see, Trinity can tear through everything very easily. So contrary to popular opinion, I think Trinity actually has more damage potential than most of the other warframes. There are only a few warframes in the game that are capable of completely stripping enemy armor. And it's even easier with Trinity as you only have to activate Link with the abating Link augment with no need of spamming anything. Now when it comes to survivability, Trinity is able to stay alive easier than most of the other warframes. The fact alone that Trinity can restore her shield instantly is already making her almost immortal, especially now that there is shield gating. And on top of that, she has a maximum of 75% damage reduction buff too. So let's not delay any longer and take a look at her build. For the aura slot, we've got enemy radar for enemy visibility, handspring for Exilius mod so you can immediately get back up when you get knocked down, narrow-minded and primed continuity for more duration. Range doesn't really matter here since it's a selfish build. Blind range and umbral intensify for more strength. I'm a little over the strength I need here since I only need around 235 strength to get a 100% armor strip on Link. Abating Link, of course. This augment enables Link to completely strip enemy armor with enough strength. This is what enables Trinity to become better than most of the other warframes when it comes to DPS. I'm using adaptation here which will work with Arcane Guardian and Trinity's damage reduction buff. It seems to be enough not to worry about dying when fighting Steel Path enemies below the level of 300. When the shield runs out, Trinity will still be very resistant to damage, so you can have a lot of time to cast Blessing and restore her shields again. But of course, if you plan to fight higher level enemies, Rolling Guard is the mod to use instead. We have Prime Flow for increased maximum energy, and lastly, Natural Talent for faster casting speed. Casting speed for Trinity can really be a problem if you don't have Natural Talent, so I feel like it's a mandatory mod for her to use. This is a 3-forma build with 1 Madurai, 1 Umbra, and Naramon for aura slot. It's not really necessary to use an Umbra form on her. You can use regular forma, but it will require you to forma 4 times instead. Now let's quickly go through the Arcanes. We've got Arcane Strike for faster melee attacks. This is also mandatory for me on this build since the Yacht Hussar has a slow attack speed. Arcane Guardian for more damage resistance, but I only use this if I have adaptation on. If I have Rolling Guard, then I use Arcane Consequence here instead. Now for our universal status weapon, the Kuva New Core. If you watched my previous video, then I'm sure you already know that my New Core is not built for damage. This build is mainly to proc status to enemies and it helps us with crowd control as well. We have 4 damage types on it, which are Viral, Radiation, Magnetic, and Heat. So we've got 3 of the 60/60 mods for Cold, Toxin, and Heat, Lethal Torrent, Barrel Diffusion, and Gunslinger for faster fire rate and multi-shot. Seeker for Punch Through, since this enables New Core to hit more enemies. Sure Shot for more status chance. and eject magazine for passive reloading while new core is holstered. You can play around with the build, but it's important to have either toxin or heat damage since they do not have capping and can go up to hundreds of procs at once. Next, we've got the Yacht Kusar with pure crit build. Defiled Snapdragon for our stance, Blood Rush, Sacrificial Steel and Organ Shatter for our crits, Primed Reach for additional range, Berserker for more attack speed, Primed Fever Strike, and Condition Overload for core damage, and a faction mod of your choice. If you think that faction mods are bad since it only gives us a 55% additional damage, please feel free to watch my previous video so you get to know how useful it actually is. So the reason we're not putting status on our melee is because we're using new core to proc those status effects. It is more convenient because of the range and it also procs status so much faster compared to our melee. I think it's also worth mentioning that too much range for Trinity will actually be bad since it makes link tether to enemies that your melee weapon cannot reach. The focus tool we are using is Naramon with Power Spike. Instead of the combo meter completely depleting after the duration, it will slowly go down by 5 instead. For our companion, we are using Helios and Deconstructor with 3 Gladiator mods, which will give us more critical chance per combo multiplier. Helios is okay to use for level 300 Steel Path enemies, but for anything beyond that, it's better to use Jin with Reawaken instead for the purpose of Vacuum and Radar. That's it for the Trinity build. As requested by Gluttony, I will be sharing the fashion setup of my frames as well. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Use this as a guideline for your own builds. If you find something you prefer, I'm encouraging you to use it. Thank you for being here and watching my video until the end. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something from it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. That's all for today. Thank you very much and I'll see you next time. Bye!